Today is Thursday, October 30, 2014, the 303rd day of the year. There are 62 days remaining until the end of 2014. On this day in 1501, the Ballet of Chestnuts is a banquet held by Cesare Borgia in the Papal Palace at the Vatican in Rome, where 50 prostitutes, or with all due respect, courtesans, are in attendance for the entertainment of guests. Cesare Borgia, illegitimate son of a papal cardinal, Rodrigo Borgia, who is later Pope Alexander VI, and his girlfriend Venosa del Catane. He studies for a career in the church, which in 16th century Italy, the equivalent of bond trading in the 1980s. When he's 18 and his father's the Pope, Cesare Borgia is named cardinal. The Ballet of Chestnuts, or Banquet of Chestnuts, on this day in 1501 is a dinner at the Vatican in honor of Cardinal Borgia's pops, the Pope. The story comes from a diary written by the proto-notary apostolic Johann Burchard, who was the MC for the evening, and American author William Manchester, who says Borgia arranges for 50 honest prostitutes, very tough to find, to dance, at first covered with veils, and then somewhat less covered. Afterward, the women crawl around on the floor strewn with chestnuts, which, by the way, are delicious at holiday time, roasted over an open fire, or any other time, really. Pope Alexander, an admirer of male virility, and offers prizes, offices, estates, fleets of trading vessels, steak knives, dinnerware, frozen turkeys, to the participant who can satisfy the greatest number of prostitutes during the course of the evening. Trained personnel on hand to keep score, judges decide ranking, so much for confirmation, so much for dexterity, so much for stamina, extra points for snappy patter. Late 19th, early 20th century Vatican researcher, the Right Rev. Peter de Roo, rejects the notion of an orgy of this nature taking place within the Holy Enclave. He says the story a smear made up by enemies of the Borgias and Pope Alexander in particular, that there might have been a celebratory dinner on this day, but it's attended only by noble ladies and gentlemen of the court. And they pass the evening dancing and telling respectfully humorous stories. Nobody's working blue. There may have been respectful kissing upon bidding one another farewell for the evening, but never on the mouth, and even if, God forbid there is, no tongue. On this day in 1922, Benito Mussolini is made Prime Minister of Italy. Mussolini, the leader of the Italian National Fascist Party, and as Prime Minister rules strictly according to the Constitution until 1925, when he establishes a dictatorship and swaps his title from Mr. Prime Minister to Il Duce, the leader. When Italy, a member of the World War II axis with Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan, suffers harsh defeat in 1943, King Victor Emmanuel III deposes Mussolini, who then establishes the Italian Social Republic, a ballroom dancing society and Nazi-client state in northern Italy. That is until 1945, when on April 28, 1945, Mussolini, his girlfriend Clara Petacci, and several other fascists are caught trying to escape to Spain by the local communist resistance and are summarily executed near Lake Como, not far from Clooney's place, and hung on meat hooks by their heels from the roof of an Esso gas station. On this day in 1953, U.S. President Dwight D. Eisenhower formally approves a top-secret document, National Security Council Paper number 162/2, which states that the United States arsenal of nuclear weapons must be maintained and expanded to counter the communist threat. The previous year, 1952, the first full-scale American hydrogen bomb, called the Super by its proud father, Edward Teller, is tested at Eniwetok Atoll in the Marshall Islands. The Ivy Mike test on October 31, 1952, yielding the equivalent of 10 tons of TNT, or about 450 times as powerful as the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. At some point, you have to ask yourself, under what political circumstance would you need a bomb 450 times as powerful as the nukes they unleashed over the Jays in 1945? Terrific question. What do you think? Never? Close. Maybe you want to turn Romania from a semi-thriving Eastern European nation of about 20 million people into a desert wasteland. You've probably thought about it from time to time, and you want to make it with one neat shot. Then maybe. On this day in 1961, among the annals of nuclear testing, the Soviet Union detonates the hydrogen bomb they call Tsar Bomba over Novaya Zemlya. Tsar Bomba, the biggest nuclear device ever detonated, equivalent to 1,500 times the explosive energy of both Japanese nukes, 50 million tons of TNT, or 10 times the explosive energy of every conventional weapon fired off in every war in human history. It's loud, man, and very bright. It's a Teller Ulam 3-stage design, Papa Edward Teller's sexiest wet dream. History thanks you, Ed, but to limit fallout, only 2 stages are put into play. Still, 53 years later, enough enough radioactive crap is blown into the stratosphere, background radiation around the world remains elevated as a result of this monster, and is likely to stay that way forever. Drop this baby on NYC with 3 stages activated, you wipe out population eastward to the Ohio Valley, northward to Montreal, south to Charlotte, North Carolina. Only buildings left standing are a couple of joints in Cranston, Rhode Island, built by the mafia back in the late 1950s. This is a time when Americans take out second mortgages to build and stock underground fallout shelters out back in the yard. It's useful, though, motivates JFK and USSR Foreign Minister Andrei Gromyko in 1963 to sign the Limited Nuclear Test Ban Treaty banning atmospheric testing of nuclear weapons. Indigenous population of Novaya Zembla, about 300 Nenets tribespeople who subsist in northern Arctic Russia on fishing, trapping, reindeer herding, and polar bear and seal hunting, relocate to the mainland in the 1950s as nuclear testing begins. Since then, Novaya Zembla is a site for 224 atmospheric nuclear detonations of various sizes, including the Tsar Bomba on this day in 1961. Richard Rhodes, author of The Making of the Atomic Bomb, writes, "Rather than sleep, Tibbets crawled through the 30-foot tunnel to chat with the waste crew, wondering if they knew what they were carrying. A chemist's nightmare, the tail gunner, Robert Caron, guests. Then a physicist's nightmare. Well, not exactly, Tibbets hedged. Tibbets was leaving by the time Caron put 2 and 2 together. Tibbets stayed a little longer, then started to crawl forward up the tunnel. I remembered something else, and just as the last of the old man was disappearing, I sort of tugged at his foot, which was still showing. He came sliding back in a hurry, thinking maybe something was wrong. What's the matter? I looked at him and said, Colonel, are we splitting atoms today? This time, he gave me a really funny look and said, that's about it. From Rutland, Vermont, this is Richard Alcott speaking.